Hello, my Wellish besties. Today we're talking about the kind of transformation that doesn't come from doing more, but from finally slowing down enough to ask why you're doing it at all. We'll explore what happens when achievement stops working, when self-improvement becomes another mask, and how questioning who you are might actually be the most soul-awakening thing you ever do. To talk with us about this today is Ashley Jordan, author of Unhappy Achiever, a love letter to everyone who's followed all the self-help rules, checked every box, and still felt that quiet ache of, is this really it? That ache of longing for fulfillment. Ashley isn't here to paint this picture-perfect vision of healing. She's here to talk about what it really means to rebuild, even when there's detours, doubts, and there's no perfection. To find meaning in the messy, beautiful process of becoming your most aligned self that you only get the chance to notice when you stop performing wellness. Ashley, welcome to Wellish. I'm really looking forward to talking to you about how you've navigated the unraveling of your old identity, what it means to rebuild from authenticity instead of achievement, and the deeper, more spiritual kind of transformation that happens when we stop chasing perfection and start becoming real.
Thank you, Sarah. I am so happy to be here talking with you about this, and I'm excited to dig in. Let's do it.
So I like to start all the way at the beginning. I want to talk about how just like that spiritual transformation, that like the burnout, what that looked like for you. So for listeners that might not know your story, what was the moment that you realized achievement wasn't making you happy anymore?
So this question is so funny because it's actually where the title of my book, Unhappy Achiever, originated from. I had been writing professionally for a couple of years, and like so many writers, my dream was to get published by the New York Times. And I think I felt like, well, when I do this thing, I will have made it. Like that'll be it. I'll feel validated, right? And so I felt myself sort of hustling, right, toward that goal. And then I did it. And I did it in, fairly quickly for a writer. I'd only been writing professionally for about a year and a half. And when I did it in this really personal, beautiful way in terms of the story I was able to tell. But when I actually saw my name in the New York Times, I didn't feel the way that I thought I would feel. And even worse than not feeling the way I thought I would feel, I felt nothing. I felt numb. And so I literally I turned to the source of all modern wisdom, Google, and I
Absolutely.
frantically typed into the Google search bar, what does it mean when you achieve a major accomplishment and you feel nothing? And the first article that popped up in my search result was an article entitled, Are You an Unhappy Achiever? And it was sort of this gut moment of, yeah, I think that I am. And what does that mean? And I realized at that moment that I could sort of view my whole life, all 37 years, through that lens of unhappy achiever. That I had, at a very young age, learned to equate achievement and I'll say for women, being shiny, pretty, pleasing, approval seeking with earning love. And so I had spent my whole life following this good girl script. If I do these things, I will be happy. Like eventually, like all of the Disney fairy tale princesses, I will arrive at the place that the fairy tale is promised. But I had arrived at that place. I had the career, the kids, the house, the cars, the degrees, right? This life that externally looked absolutely perfect, but inwardly it was broken, and I didn't even know who I was. And so not only did I feel unfulfilled, I realized that in many ways I was emotionally numb.
Interesting. So when you say that you didn't feel anything, was it just like the sense of normalcy in a sense? Like that you're like, oh, like I thought this would bring glamour and glitz and like greatness into my life. And it was just like, well, this is just still my regular everyday life. Is that kind of what you mean? Or is it something different?
I think I would say I think it's this. I think that and I've heard other women say this too. Like these things that we aspire to, for instance, another friend of mine said this when she got her PhD, right? This degree that she worked so hard for. She's
Mm-hmm.
like, once I had it, it felt like it didn't mean as much. It was just like somehow when we do the thing that we think will make us feel whole, right? Validated, worthy, like enough. Somehow when we do it, it's no big deal. It doesn't really mean that much, right? And
Mm.
that is something that's so true when we are seeking outside of ourselves. Nothing will fulfill us. Nothing will give us the wholeness that I think we're all ultimately seeking because that is only found within, not through anyone or anything.
Interesting. Okay. Why do you think so many of us get stuck there?
Because I think that our programming, since we're little, teaches us to, right? It teaches us to abandon ourselves to be what we're conditioned to be. And so we look outside of ourselves for wholeness. And we have a whole culture and world based on that, right? Buy these things, do these things, inject yourself with these
Mm-hmm.
things, get these degrees,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it substantiates this system that a lot of people, well, I'll say a minority of people make a lot of money from. Like if we believe that we need something outside of just our own beautiful, breathtaking being to be whole, we will buy anything.
Yeah, it's true. That's so real. It's like the biggest marketing scheme ever.
Like we are always on this trap of commodifying and trying to buy wholeness. Like I
Mm-hmm.
like the biggest misconception and the biggest wisdom, one of the biggest pieces of wisdom I try to give women is you don't need to buy anything. You need to sit with yourself and tap into your own heart, your own inner wisdom, your own longing, and you need to show up authentically so you can attract the women who are meant for you, who see you. All you need in your life to transform is yourself and a few wise women, honestly, and that is free. Free of charge.
Yeah, 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 100%. Okay, well, so then if we're doing that, like we will literally sell our soul in order to like get the wholeness, pay any dollar amount. Okay, what is the connection between, I heard you mention it briefly, that there is a connection between not enoughness and having that sense of achievement, needing to do all of the things in order to get there. So what's the connection there?
It gives us the illusion of satisfaction and fulfillment. And I say the illusion because we do get a high from it, right? We do get a
Yeah,
momentary
for
sense
sure.
of like, ooh, look at me. People are noticing, right? People, I get to show everyone, look what I just did, right? And I get to impress people and I'm shiny, right? People see me. Because honestly, Sarah, that's what we all want. We all want to be safe, seen, and loved. And that feeling of safe, seen, and loved comes from within first, right? And then we start to truly experience it outside of us once we have found it inside of us. But until we get there, because that is the hardest place to get to,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have to go through so much messiness to get there, but we can taste it artificially with things outside of us. It is this achievement. I don't think truly it can be an addiction like anything else. It is escapism. It is a way to get a rush, a high, some feel good moments. You can get some feel good months. It's like anything that we buy, even a degree, like we were just saying, right? It's cool for a few months, and then even when you're living in the mansion or the estate, after a little while, it's just your house. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
high wears
Mm-hmm.
off. And that's the difference between seeking wholeness outside of ourselves and truly connecting to wholeness within ourselves is that one is momentary, artificial, it fades, and the other is something that we cultivate from within so we can sustain it. We can tap into it anytime, and it isn't contingent on anyone or anything outside of us.
Completely. So then what we do is use the drive to be better as a quiet form of self-rejection, yes?
Completely. And that's why in my work and in my book, I always use the word unbecoming instead of becoming. Because becoming
I love that.
suggests I'm trying to get to this version of me. But I believe we're born our truest selves. And the world and our journeys and trauma and conditioning just obscures our beautiful, unique being. But I believe we already are everything we need to be. So it's not about becoming something. It's about unbecoming all of the crap that obscured the beautiful beings we were when we were born. We're just peeling back the masks, peeling back the trauma to find our truth, our center, our hearts. And that is the whole point. But we have an entire system built on thinking that is found outside of us and instead of inside of us. Because if we begin to realize that we have it already, that we don't have to buy anything, that's freedom. That's liberation. Like, that's true power that nobody can take away.
Yeah, big time. What you're describing sounds like when you're questioning your identity. So like, what does that look like? Because obviously, like, it sounds great, but like, what does it look like on a day-to-day basis? Like, I just want to know like how you started separating who you truly are from like having to achieve and meet these roles that you felt like were defining you into who you actually are, that doesn't have to rely on that once you started to connect with your inner self.
So I think for me, it was, and I'm not villainizing the ego because it serves an important purpose. It's a part of us. We need it. The problem is the world that we live in puts our egos in the driver's seat, right? It's all about ego. It's all about how we look instead of how we feel. And so for me, it was every aspect of the self that I constructed based on the ego was dismantled. And, I would love to tell you that, like, I decided this should happen. Really, I think like so many of us, I stumbled into that journey, right? Like the higher version of me on some level, I think knew what it was doing, but my very human self was like, no, what's happening? And for me, it was grief that cracked open, grief that I had buried when I was 13 years old. And I think that was a big moment in my life where I really disconnected from myself and my own heart. And I felt very alone and without love and unseen. And so I became the unhappy achiever and the really good girl and the pretty girl and what I thought everyone wanted me to be, instead of being myself. And so I lost her. And in that space, ironically, of grief cracking open 24 years after my childhood sweetheart died, I started to discover the version of myself I buried for the first time. The mask started to come off, and I started to see me, and the me that I am now is almost unrecognizable to the version of myself that I was. I'll say now, 5 years ago is when my journey started, but truthfully, I'm different than I was 6 months ago. Like, it is ever evolving, and we become more ourselves every day. And so I also use unbecoming because we're not trying to get somewhere. We're just trying to be more connected to our hearts, more true to ourselves, and more ourselves every day. And it is an ongoing process. And like, that's what I want to normalize for everybody more than anything, is that don't make your journey of unbecoming a journey of perfection. It is the opposite of that. It is a journey of heart-centered humanity, humanness, right? So like let's normalize that it's really messy sometimes.
Amen.
And that's okay. Like if you are in that messiness, that's, I mean, it's like I always use it's cliche, but I always use the butterfly analogy because the best way I heard it put is if you want to become a butterfly, if you want to, no, I shouldn't say that. If you want to be the butterfly you were born to be, you have to be reduced to caterpillar consomme first, right? Like metamorphosis is so ugly. It is.
So true. So true. That's a great metaphor.
Like, and that's okay. And so that I think is what we are reclaiming for ourselves, that we've abandoned the messiness. We've abandoned the parts of ourselves that aren't always pretty, and we've made self-love about another version of perfection, right?
Yeah, real.
And no, that is not, self love is not for loving ourselves on our best, prettiest days. Self love is for loving ourselves on our messiest, worst days. Can you love yourself in your messy bits? That is, if you, because when you get to that point where you're like, oof, I see this about myself. This is not this is not my favorite aspect of me, or I just messed up so big today. Yesterday I had the worst, most it's like everything was frustrating. And for me, the continuing evolution is sitting in that. On my drive home yesterday, I sat with, oof, today was frustrating. Ugh, I feel yucky. And can I, instead of ejecting from my body and looking for something outside of me to make me feel better fast, right? Which is what we normally do. For me, it's about no, I am not abandoning myself anymore. I can be with me even on my messiest days. I can love me and stay with my heart even in my worst moments. And that is self-love.
I love that. I think that one of the things that really helped me click into that was hearing that it's unconditional love for yourself. And I just thought, oh my God, like absolutely, because that's just our default, like you said, is to turn around when things are going bad, when shit's not how you want it to be. And you're just like, God, you could have done something better. What could you have done instead? What could you, whatever? And that's not it. That's not how to go about it. So I like that you say that. I wanted to say to you, it's funny that you mentioned grief. So I have a question about a different kind of grief, in that when you're transitioning from your old self to your new self, did you experience any sort of grief in kind of having to let go of who she was in order to become your new self?
Oh my gosh, yes, Sarah, that is such a great question. And I'm really glad that you asked it, because when we are on this journey, and it really is a journey it is a reclamation of our truest selves, our voices, our hearts, our truth. And in that place, we have to die to old versions of ourselves. People will fall away, aspects of our career will fall away, right? And that is the messy bit. That is the hardest parts of the journey, where we're actually shedding the versions of us in our lives that just no longer fit, because it feels like death, and it is in its own way, right? And for me, it culminated in, leaving a 15-year marriage, right? And with no plan. Like, that was not my plan at all, right? And it was brutal. And so we absolutely do have to grieve those moments, and we have to inhabit that grief. And I watched myself, even in some of those hardest moments, try to bypass it, right? Even this, deeply connected woman, it was like I would try to, again, self-eject. Like, what can I buy right now? who can I date right now? Like, who, like, what professional thing can I do, right? Like, that is that, I mean, that's the default. So the unweaving we have to do around that, it is a daily practice, right? And it gets easier. It does. And it changes, and the grief changes. And we realize, even if we can't see past it in the moment, and I'll give the example of, one of the first things that I had to let go of was some friendships. And these were friendships that I thought were, you know, everything. Like, so, like, and I remember being in the space of, like, I was heartbroken over it. I truly was like, what is happening? Because in my mind I was like, this is like Ashley Jordan 2.0. Like, everybody is gonna love.
Yeah, who doesn't want to be around her?
I was
Yeah,
like,
that's a great point.
I was like, my friends are gonna, like, my heart is wide open now. Like, I can love them so much better. And they were like, who the hell is this? Like,
Yeah.
it's not what they signed up for, because the
Mhm.
co-residence that we shared was a different version of me. And so I internalized that in the moment that those friendships were starting to dissolve, as a rejection. Like, why don't they love me like I love them? But
Yep.
really, it's like
Mhm.
there wasn't the same co-resonance anymore. And what I've come to realize is it's the ego that wants to latch onto that and be like, no, right? Every friendship is forever. Everything is forever. No, it's not. It's not.
Mhm.
Sometimes it is, sometimes, but often it's not. And that's okay. Like, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with them, and didn't mean there's something wrong with me. What it actually meant for me is that I was showing up as a truer version of me, and there were some people for whom, like, that wasn't a fit. That's okay, because what ended up happening is that the truest friendships, the truest sisterhoods of my life showed up within 6 months. And I wouldn't have been able to continue on my journey without those women. And so what was happening was space in my life was being cleared for the women who could hold me and meet me in the truest expression of myself, the kind of friendship, Sarah, that I prayed for but never had
Wow.
actually experienced. Like, sisterhood that is true love, as powerful as romantic love and as pure. And so, maybe even more so in some ways,
That's real. 100% I believe that a female friendship.
right? Because there's not, it isn't, there isn't that, like, physical aspect. And so it's not what will you give me? It just is. And it is
Yeah,
unconditional.
yeah.
And so,
Hmm.
like, I always say, that is the kind of love that liberates, right? And so that is, I think, what so many of us are coming home to when we come home to ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious, so you had mentioned, which I've heard before, that the old version of you has to die in order to become this new version of you. And I love that mentality. Like, I really resonate with it. It really like hits something in me. But I struggle with it because I feel like on my mission to not self abandon, on my mission to love myself unconditionally, and having wounds of like not being chosen and not feeling enough, it makes me feel like, am I neglecting that old version of me? Like, am I saying, she sucked, you have to die, I'm not choosing you, I don't love you? So, how do you like navigate that?
I love that question. So you are so right, because that, depending on how we hold that, it can become another form of self-hate, right? Like, oh, that old version of
Mm-hmm.
me. And I have joked like that. She was such a drag.
Yeah.
She was really
Well, and I mean,
uptight.
and
She
you're not
was. She
wrong.
was
Yeah.
that unhappy achiever version, Sarah. She was uptight. So, but there, if you, in the actual dedication to my book, part of the dedication is to the old version of me for being who she needed to be until my truest self was strong enough to step forward. And so I think it is both. It is accepting that, like, that I am so grateful to that version of me because that's who I needed to be for all of the time that I was her. Like she was keeping me safe until this version of myself was ready to step forward. And so I honor her. I love her, right? There's nothing wrong with her as there's nothing wrong with me now. And so I think that becomes another aspect of self-love. Like we are who we need to be until we are in a position where our truer selves are ready to step forward. It is, and that, Sarah, too, is such an important point. In our readiness, we will evolve. In our readiness, it's ours and it's everyone else's. And we don't get to decide when that happens for others, if that happens for others, right? We only get to decide if and when that happens for us. And it is a sacred choice that we must make because, as one of my closest sisters said, you know, we all have an opportunity to face ourselves at some point, and we get to decide if we're going to accept that mission or be like, nope, I am good. I am fine right here. And I have respect and compassion for either choice because I know how hard that path of unbecoming can be. But I can also say it is so worth it. Even on the darkest days, even with all of the deaths I've had to die to that other version of me, because every time the truer version of me steps forward, I feel more loved and more free.
God, deep breath. Like you saying that is such a good answer. I felt it in my body. That was great. So once you got rid of that old version of you, like once she fell apart, what did the rebuilding actually look like?
Well, and I want to say, that old version of me is still in there. She's just different, right? And
Love that.
yeah, like she's not gone. Oh no, like she's still evolving, right? She's on the phone with her best friend this morning. Like there are parts of me that I'm still, like perfection still creeps up. And so I say that healing, evolution, it is an onion. It is not, as we said before, I've arrived, here I am, it's done. Nope, it's like, great, you peeled back another layer of the onion and now you're ready for the next.
Yep. Hi, we're not done.
Right.
Surprise.
Right? And so it changes, it shifts, it ebbs, it flows. But I think that we are meant to be, as long as we are breathing air and being here, we're meant to be learning and growing and evolving. And so this version of me, when we talk again 5 years from now, will be completely different, right? I might even be like, oh,
Yeah.
those things I
Yeah.
said, they don't resonate with me anymore, right? I've learned more,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what I would say. Like she's still there. She is still, if you had interviewed me, this is a great example. If you had interviewed me a year ago, I would have been in like full makeup, eye makeup. Today it was like a little mascara, a little lip gloss. Let's do this thing. But
Yep.
I wasn't ready for that a year ago because that mask of perfection kept me safe and I still needed it. And so it's like I would never say you should do this or you should do that. If you do this, you don't love yourself. If you do that. No, I did love myself a year ago. I was loving by showing up that way. I was being true to who I was then. And by showing up this way, I'm being true to who I am now. Right? So,
Felt that one.
and so that version of the old version of me is still in there. She's continuing to learn how to evolve so that this truer version can continue to step forward more and more, more and more every day. And I think that's what we're all doing until we die. And so I honor the version of me who needed to perform, who needed to hide under masks of perfection, because she was doing what she needed to do to survive for so long, right? Especially in especially our little selves who don't have a choice. Right? Like they don't
Yeah.
have a choice. Like we're dealt the hand that we're given when we're little. And so now we do have a choice, right? And so we learn and we grow. And I'm continuing every day to do that and to realize that the kind of beauty I am focusing now is more focused inside than outside, and not in like a cliche way, but like nurturing myself, nourishing myself, loving myself more deeply, and saying, I am lovable as I age. I am lovable without makeup. And I'll say, Sarah, it's not even just like, oh, I'm actively choosing, I don't want to do my eye makeup anymore. It's more so that the mask isn't fitting anymore. It fit really well before, but it just doesn't fit anymore. And that's okay. And so we get to a point where sometimes it's not even like, I've decided I'm not doing this. It's more so like, it doesn't feel right anymore. It just doesn't feel like me anymore. And
Yeah.
it's like where we used to do it and it felt good. It's just like, it doesn't feel good anymore. Right?
And that's fine. Like, it's just not that big of a deal. I
Right.
feel like when we get into the perfectionist role, we get like so rigid on
Mhm.
that we're like, well, but I said I was going to follow this thing forever. And like now I'm not doing it anymore.
Yes. Well, and it's like I always think of two things. There's one, I had this conversation with my very good friend, like I think it was like 2 years ago, and someone on social media had said, if you use filters on your videos on Instagram, you don't love yourself. And I was like, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. Like maybe, you know, putting
100%.
yourself on Instagram is not easy for anybody, right? Like it is like, and so if you need to use a filter to share your voice and who you are on Instagram, go for it. If you get to a point where
Yeah.
you don't want to anymore, awesome. Go for
Great.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Why are you concerned with that?
Right.
Yeah,
Like
100%. And to put like such a trivial thing on like this level of like your self-love,
yes.
relax. Like that's not that
Who gets
serious.
like no one should be the authority on somebody else's self-love, right? Like that is just
Yeah. Yeah.
ridiculous. And then the other thing I always think of along the lines of what you're saying is that chapter of Glennon Doyle's book Untamed, where it's about Alicia Keys, and Alicia Keys decides she's not wearing makeup anymore, and so she tells Adam Levine she's not wearing makeup anymore. And one day she shows up like on the set of the show they were recording together with like a bold red lip, and he's like, I thought you weren't wearing makeup anymore. And she looks at him and she says, I'm a grown ass woman and I do what the fuck I want.
Yes, I love that.
And so I think,
Changes every
yeah,
day.
so like that's what it's about, right? Tomorrow, maybe I will have full eye makeup if that's how I feel. But I don't, the difference is in the old version of me is I thought I needed to perform that, to wear that mask, to be loved and accepted. And now I don't, it's not about how I look, it's about how I feel on any given day.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, well, so like in that same idea, because and kind of like what we were talking about like the selling modalities of like how to heal and all that stuff. Like I feel like one of the things that's really pushed is all of the healing practices and the routines and all of that stuff. So like how much does that actually play a role in your aligned self? If like it is kind of like a just do what makes you feel good.
It is. I think it is, and this is why, I think some people who have read my book and wanted like prescriptions, tell me what to do, right? And in fact, when I was working on the book and in the publishing process, I told my team, I was like, I will not give prescriptions. I will tell story. I mean, I am a storyteller. I will tell the honest to God truth about my journey and what it looked like so that others who read it will know that they're not alone, right? And that they can see parts of it, whatever resonates for them, that relates to their own journey. But I will never tell someone what they should do. And if they do it, that they will find what they're, they will find wholeness, because that's not how it works. There is no prescription. There is no one size fits all, because we're meant to connect to ourselves, right? We are meant to move our own path forward from the purity of our own hearts, not from other people's judgments and projections and prescriptions. Like, nobody can tell you what's right for you. Nobody. And so, and for me, in the past 5 years, I have, what my journey looks like, what I'm drawn to is ever changing. What I needed at different times is different than what I need now, right? There are times where I can't stop reading and I have, books and books on my bookshelves. And there are times where I'm not as much. And maybe I'm meditating, or maybe I am, there are times where I'm creating and, I'm really sharing professionally. And then there have been really quiet times where I've been working on things personally. Like, the path, that is the thing. If you are walking the path that's most aligned for you, it will be a path that is completely individual to you. And so it's going to look different at different times. What resonates with you is going to look different at different times, right? You may be completely into meditating at one moment and then be like, I'm not, for some reason, I'm just not feeling it anymore. And I think we see how we take these practices that are meant to be guides and supports in us reconnecting with ourselves. But when they start to feel like pressure, when they start to feel like another thing on your to-do list, when you start shaming yourself because you're not meditating for the 30 minutes a day you are supposed to, like, that becomes the opposite of what they're meant to do for you. I remember saying to someone, that very thing. I'm like, I get so mad at myself. I'm not meditating for 30 minutes a day. And she's like, so don't. Like, what are you doing? Just have a cup of coffee and sit outside. Like, you don't have to. And I was like, you are so right. That is the complete opposite of what meditation is supposed to do for me. And so I let go and I stopped giving myself rules and prescriptions, right? Because it was more unhappy achiever. It was just like,
Yeah, oh my God, I'm so guilty of that. I like set all of these rules to myself and then use them as an excuse to beat myself up. I'm like, why?
right,
Why did I do that?
right. And that's why I always say there's a light and a dark to all of us and everything that exists, every aspect of ourselves, right? Even the most beautiful things, we can somehow find a way to make ugly. And I think that's our humanness. That's okay. But we can also get off the hamster wheel and just say to ourselves, like, I trust myself and my journey enough to know, and I trust my own heart enough to follow where it leads. And some days I might be led to books. Some days I might be led to time with friends. Some days I might just need to sit alone with a cup of coffee. Some days I need to be out creating or sharing my work or with my children. We are meant to follow our hearts to drive our paths forward, not other people's prescriptions, and certainly not other people's judgments. And we don't need to pay money for it. Sometimes we do, and that's great, right? I've had a fantastic counselor. I've seen fantastic healers, of all different varieties. But also what I get from just a quiet conversation with a cup of coffee and one of my sisters, that wisdom, that love is worth its weight in gold, right? What I find in meditation sometimes is also, so there is no rules here. We're throwing the rule book out on these things.
Yes, I love that. Okay, well, so then what would you say to the person that, like, you hear throw the rule book out and they're like, well, how am I ever going to achieve anything? Like, how am I ever going to get anywhere if I'm not like following a plan or a prescription or anything like that.
Oh, so that's the funniest thing, Sarah, because I love in what you said. It was like, how am I ever going to achieve anything? How am I going to get anywhere? And so the
Hmm.
answer is like, and it sounds so simple. Stop. Just stop. Like, stop. Take 5 minutes a day. Sit with yourself for 5 minutes a day. Literally, like, that is the biggest thing I tell women because in order to hearing your own inner wisdom, to find yourself again, you just have to stop. Like, even if you only have 5 minutes a day, please, for 5 minutes, do something that connects you to yourself. Go for a walk in nature, sit down with a warm cup of coffee under a cozy blanket, take an art class, right? Like what were the
Hmm.
things I always say to remember who you are. Think about what you loved to do when you were 8 years old because when you were 8 years old, you did whatever you did from that place of freedom and abandon and purity without a boss on your back, right? A partner looking over your shoulder, kids asking for dinner. What did you love to do, right? When you weren't worried about who was watching? Do that
Hmm.
again, right? So the answer is so simple. And from that place, I say everything else will take care of itself. When you show up for yourself again, everything else will unfold in perfect timing because you're putting yourself on a path of coming home to self. And you can't lose, you can't go wrong there. It doesn't mean it will always be easy. Some days it will be really hard and really messy, but it is so worth it. You deserve it.
Yeah. Was there a specific moment when you realized you didn't have to chase your worth anymore through all the achievement?
I think that is again, Sarah, it's not a place that you arrive at. And for me, even in my work now,
Yeah.
it's I'm still learning new layers of that. Like for me, I've realized I am not here to sell. I am not here to sell anybody my book even, right? I'm not going to do that. And it's not that I don't, but I am always open to sharing it. I will always share it with anybody who is interested. But I'm not here to convince somebody what's right for them, convince someone what to read, right? Convince someone who to listen to. But I'm here to show up, to share in community, to support other people on their own paths of unbecoming and coming home to self, because that's what I think the call that we're all rising toward says. It's not about capitalistic competition and commodifying everything. It is about community. It is about supporting each other, sharing, right? And yes, we can absolutely be paid for that, but we need to redefine what success means, right? And I think that that starts from releasing perfectionism. You know, look what it took. We had technical difficulties to get here
Hmm.
today, right? Like, this is not the space I planned to record in. It's just fine.
Hmm.
But I had to pivot to plan B and shift a table around and like figure it out. And so, but I did. I figured it out, and now I get to have this beautiful conversation with you. It's not about how it looks. It's about how it feels. And so at the end of the day, I think that's what we're being called to get away from. It doesn't have to be insta perfect. It needs to be authentic, right?
I love that so much. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then so if there is no threshold that we cross in order to like become this higher version of ourselves, what does that connection to our most aligned selves mean to you now compared to what it did when you were in that deep achievement mindset?
It means living a life that feels so aligned that I am creating love and joy for myself in beautiful moments, even in the simplest moments. And so that is one thing that I have realized, and it's something that I write about in my book in a chapter called Sacred Acts, where I write about my childhood sweetheart who died. And I say that, he didn't live long enough to do the things that the world says sells. That was a that the world sells us, right? He didn't live long enough to get the degrees, to win a Nobel Peace Prize, to, you know, publish with the New York Times, to make a lot of money. But his is the only grave I ever go to. 30 years later, when I go to my hometown, I stop at the hometown grocery store and I go put beautiful flowers on Daniel's grave and honor someone whose life was a legacy of love, not stuff, not achievements, just love. And so love is all there is. And so when we start to say to ourselves, you know what? If one person listens to this podcast and sees themselves and says to themselves, I can do this. I'm not alone. If these women can do it, I can do it too. That's worth it, right? That made everything we did
Yeah.
this morning worth it, right? And so it's like detach from what it looks like and start to focus on what it feels like. And for me, it's like, what do I feel like when I'm in alignment? I feel joyful. I feel like I don't have to perform. I feel like I can just show myself as I am and it's enough. I feel like I am able to connect with people in loving, meaningful ways, whether it's through my work or whether it's with my children or whether it's with my dearest friends. And that is fulfillment, right? And then finding that within myself, loving myself more deeply every day, allowing myself to be seen more truly, more authentically every day, more unmasked, right? That's what we're moving toward. And that is, again, it is building a life from the inside out instead of the outside in, and releasing every day what the world tells us matters and saying, no, this is what success looks like to me now. I don't need 5 million followers, right? I need to live in the most aligned way so that when I die, people are like, you know what? Like, it'll be the people who I hope in my lifetime I can make as many people feel safe, seen, and loved as possible. And that is my moving prayer for all of the people who have supported me, who have loved me through my unbecoming, through my messiness when I was down on my knees and were like, Ashley, you can do this. Keep going, right? Don't give up. And for them, for the love I've been given, for the love Daniel gave me, I will try my best, even in my hardest moments, to live the rest of my life like a moving prayer of love and gratitude, to make myself feel safe, seen, and loved, and to help others do the same, and to build that with others, right?
Ashley, that is probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. Like, that was so moving. I swear to God. Like, especially you talking about Daniel and the way that, like, you have changed your perspective on his life. That is so incredible and so beautiful. And I'm so excited that you just shared that, because that's really, like, transformational right there. That's great.
You. Thank you. I'm so
Yeah,
glad.
of
I'm so
course.
glad.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering, like, when you're like, is that what you tap into? Like, because you had mentioned earlier, like, we're not perfect, like, you still have those feelings. So, like, is that what you tap into when you feel yourself starting to, like, lean back into that perfectionism and all that stuff? Like, is this mentality?
It is, you know, and this is where I think community becomes so important. And I think if you talk to anybody who's on this path, and I'm sure you know this too, like, you will start to find your community. Like, the right people will show up for you at exactly the right time to help you keep moving forward. And for me, often, it is on my worst days, it is calling a friend who loves me unconditionally and having those human moments. Sarah, having those human moments of, what am I doing? Like, what am I even doing, right? Should I just quit
Mm-hmm.
this? I'm
Mm-hmm.
tired, right? But what I've realized, Sarah, is that the tiredness, the frustration we feel, it isn't the result of necessarily like the fatigue comes when we are out of alignment, not when we're in alignment. Because when we're moving from the ego, it's like, this isn't happening the way I want it to. I thought, I thought it would look like this. And I thought if I did this thing that I know was the right thing, I would get this, right? And it's like and usually the thing that isn't right, that we feel like isn't right, is we're upset that it doesn't look the way we think it will, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. 100%.
Because on some level, we're still trying to make things look like the world tells us it should. But when we really tap into how we feel, like the reward is how I feel in this conversation with you right now. The reward is being able to show up and to have learned these lessons. 5 years ago, I didn't have a book to write, a story to tell, you know? I was telling the same old, I was like trying to be some fashion blogger, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fashion bloggers, but that just it wasn't authentic to me because
But you're trying to create that picture.
I was trying to earn approval. Still, like, look how pretty and
Yeah.
shiny I can be, right? And I love fashion. I still love it. I'm expressing it in different ways. It's evolving, but I'm not looking for people to approve. And that is the thing. Like, can you still honor yourself? Can you show up for you in doing the work that you're doing? What, even if nobody sees, right? Can't, because I'll tell you one thing I've realized is the people who are able to create a lifetime of service and work that they love and build lives that align with their truest selves. Every single one of them will tell you a story about when nobody bought their book, about when nobody showed up to their thing. But guess what? What separates them from others is that they're being authentic, they're following their hearts and their own path of alignment and truth and purpose, and they keep showing up because they love it and they love themselves so much. And so if we show up for ourselves, other people will show up, right? You can get followers. You want Instagram followers? People buy them. Go buy them. Like, if you have enough money,
True.
you can get followers, right? But what happens when you show up in authenticity and say, hey, I would rather show up real and have one person than 1 million people who are following me because I'm whatever. And not that there's anything wrong with that. That's great. Like, if you have 1 million followers, more power to you. But for those of us who are, you know, when you walk your path, like, what's going to separate you as someone who lives their truth from someone who's performing is, will you live your truth, even if you're not meeting the external version of success? I guarantee if you walk your path of purpose, you will be filled up from the inside out and you will find everything that you need. But it may not look the way that you think it looks, because it's not about looks anymore. It's about feeling. It's about loving. It's about hearts open. Because the other path that we've been conditioned to walk is literally killing us. It's killing us internally. It's killing us externally, right? It's why when we look at the people who have the most, they are sometimes some of the most miserable people. It isn't the thing. It just isn't, right? So
It's so true.
like, that's why we had True Hollywood Story. Like, there's, you know, like, and so, like, when are we going to say, and yet when we look at people who've walked very, you know, spiritual paths, frankly, they often live like some of the most simple lives, right? They're not the sexiest lives, but they are happy. And we're like, whoa, like, how can I have some of that? And sometimes the question becomes, like, what are you willing to let go of? How do you want to live? You know, And I'm not saying you can't make $1 million. That's not true either. But I'm saying you have to be operating from a place where it's not about commodifying. It's about community and connection. It's about love, right? Can you say, I love myself so much and I want to serve and I will do whatever it takes to do that, even if it means living more modestly, because that matters to me. I want a life of love, not a life of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, when you look back on your transformation, what do you think it was really about?
I think when I look back at who I was as a child, I knew in my bones that I was supposed to do something on behalf of women. I knew it, right? And even when I look at the women that were heroes for me growing up, it was not normal for a little girl in rural Illinois in the 90s, right? In my very small town, it just wasn't. But it's like I knew that I was supposed to do something, and I never could have imagined what form that would take and what I'd be doing now in a million years. And if 5 years ago you told me where I'd be, if you had told me the book that I was going to write and what was going to happen, I would have been like, no. And I would have probably went in the closet in like the fetal position, but like, I'm not coming out. So I think, but that little girl in rural Illinois knew what she was supposed to do. And it never looks the way that we think it will. It never does. But usually, in its own way, it looks bigger and more beautiful than we ever could have imagined. And I think now the awakening was really about being the version of me I was born to be and releasing the version of me I thought I had to be loved and accepted. Being the version of me that can lead the life that that was calling to me always, right? And I still don't know where this path will lead. We can all walk a path that's straight and narrow, right? Unhappy Achiever was on that path. She knew exactly where she was going. She had it all figured out, but it wasn't alive. It wasn't. It wasn't true. It wasn't. And so if you are going to walk the path of aliveness, a path of authenticity, a path of true love, you will be called to be the highest version of yourself in the world. And every day you're going to have to show up and look in the mirror and sit with yourself and say, I'm going to do this. And I don't know where I'm going. I don't know if there's somewhere I'm trying to get to or if I'll get there, but my God, I will die trying. I will die trying because I deserve it. I deserve it. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to live the most alive, truest, badass life I can live. Because I deserve it. I'm not going to live half dead. I'm not going to watch Netflix and chill on the weekends. Not that there's nothing wrong with it. I enjoy a good program, but like that zombie
I
life.
want more from my life.
Yes, like that zombie life. Like go to work, come home, eat Cheetos.
Groundhog Day.
Yes,
Yeah.
like no, I'm not doing it, right? I don't have to. And so that we're brainwashed to think you play this game. If you want a happy life, play this game. And I think unhappy achiever, and most of us find out at a certain point, that's not true. I played the game. I wasn't happy, right? So I'm not playing that game anymore. I'm not doing it. And people will say, well, you have
Yeah.
to. No, I don't. And we don't have to do it. We can make our own rules. We can live differently.
Yeah, 100%. What do you think the truth that you live, but what's a truth that you think you live by now that your old self would just like be in disbelief that you live by?
Oh my gosh, so many truths. Gosh, I'll name a couple because this one was a big one for me. That I was responsible for other people's feelings. That if someone,
Ah, good one.
that if someone was mad at me, and I was taught this, like told this, if someone's mad at you, you've done something wrong. Sarah, us good girls, wow, like that keeps us so good, right? Like other people's
Hmm.
approval, perfection, it makes us good girls, it makes us good wives, it makes us good mothers. And
Yep.
I don't care about being good anymore. I care about being real. And real empowered women have real boundaries, love themselves, choose themselves, even when other people don't like it, right? And my God, I made so many choices to make my family proud, to make my grandmother proud. I'm wearing her watch today. And I feel she's very proud of me. But her human self, when she was here, some of the changes I've made, she would have been like, what are you
What are you doing?
doing? That's not my good girl, right?
Ah, yeah.
And it's like, fuck being a good girl. I'm a badass woman, right? And like
Yeah, I
that
love
is
that.
so it's that. It's like and to this day, like even in the past, I'll say like 6 months, it's just like protecting my own energy, saying, I can't show up for some people in the way that I used to, right? I can't overgive anymore. I don't have
Yeah.
it, right? And that energy, I need that energy for me or my kids or my work. And so that
Hmm.
pisses people off. Like, wait,
Yeah.
where's the Ashley that would do this for me? It's like she still loves you, but I love me more now. And if you love me, you won't ask me to abandon myself for you. You
Yeah.
won't ask me to bleed myself dry, give you energy I don't have right now. And so the people who love us will love us anyhow. And the people who love us conditionally will leave. And that's okay, right? Because I don't have
Yeah.
time for conditional love. I love myself and I love others in my life unconditionally. And so that's self love.
Yeah, completely. I love that so much. What would you tell the unhappy achiever who's listening right now?
I would tell the unhappy achiever who's listening right now that you are beloved, not because of anything that you'll ever do. You are beloved because of the beautiful being you were when you were born. You do not have to do anything to earn love. Love is your birthright. And I know how difficult it is to feel like there's something missing, like there must be something more. Like you've done all of the things, you've checked off all of the boxes, but still there's that niggle, that internal call saying, there is something more. There must be something more. It is a restlessness, right? And
Hmm.
when you start to listen to it, to answer the internal call, you find yourself on a journey that is really hard some days. And you wonder, am I crazy? Is there something wrong with me? Should I just have settled for good enough? Right? My life is good
Hmm.
enough. Should I just have
Hmm.
accepted that? And my words to everyone who's listening, who's in that place of, is there something wrong with me? Am I crazy? Right? Should I just settle? Is no. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not alone. You are not crazy. Do not settle. Choose the path of aliveness because you are beloved, you are worthy, you are enough. And if one woman can change every major aspect of her life in 5 years and live to tell the story, then beloved, you can too.
I love that so much. If you had to describe the journey from achievements to alignment in one sentence, what would it be?
If I had to describe the journey from achievement to alignment in one sentence, I would say that what keeps coming up for me is love is all there is. Love is all there is. The path from achievement to alignment is a journey of love and coming home to self. And it is true, it's as within, so without. The love you create internally will be mirrored back to you externally. And it may not look the way that you're taught to think that love will look, but I guarantee it will feel beyond anything that you've ever felt before.
It's beautiful. Absolutely. Okay, to wrap us up, I like to play a game with my guests. I call it kind of toxic, kind of well. So essentially, because you guys all sound like you have it all together and everything sounds great, I like to play this little game to humanize you. But a lot of the time, because you've got everything figured out, you give good answers. So if there's anything that you're like, well, I don't do that anymore, or this is my quick tip for that, please share away. We love to hear it.
I love
So if you're
it.
down to
Let's
play, I got these
play.
last questions. Okay, perfect. What or who are you jealous of right now?
I'm going to say my very best friend in the world, who is my soul sister. I mean, like, it is the like, we recognized each other right away. It was like true sisterhood love at first sight, right?
I love that.
People think we only met in 2022, and people are like, what? Like, no, you've been friend, and it felt like that. It was like, oh my God, I know you. I have moments where I have felt jealousy. And I want to say that because I love this woman more than, like, next to my children. She's the closest person to me, right? I would lay down my life for her. I would trust her with my life. But I think she's so beautiful and like the most talented, magical woman I've ever met. And sometimes that little niggle inside of me is like, you're not like that. You're not as pretty as her. You're not as magical as her. And those are the moments that we talked about earlier, Sarah, where it's like, that's not true. I'm not her. I'm different, but I'm magical in my own ways. And I love me. But I also see this part of me that feels that. It is human to be jealous sometimes, to feel it. It is not the feeling that's wrong, it's acting from it, right? It's the acting
Yeah.
from it. It's so we can accept the feeling and say, oof, this is coming up for me, even with somebody that I love and admire more than anyone else in the world. And that's okay, right?
Yeah, completely. Well, and I think it makes me think like, it just makes me think that if there's a reason you're soul sisters. It's funny that like from an outside point of view, you think like, well, obviously those two are fully in alignment, so there's nothing to be jealous of. But as it's you, you're like, damn it, like why can't I be like that? So funny that we do that to ourselves. When's the last time you sacrificed your own wants or needs to keep the peace with others, even though you didn't want to?
Oh, okay. So I was in this has come up in dating for me a lot. Um, Dating partnership is a whole other leg of the journey for sure. And I would accept leftovers as love. I would like with men that I met who I cared about, who I'll say even loved. If they couldn't meet me, I would say, and they would be like, "Oh, I'll just give you this much." I'd be like, "Yeah, that's fine. Sure." And
Yeah,
I was like, "Cause
I'll take
I'm
it.
so whole. Like I don't need that." And that was such a lie.
Yeah.
It was like drinking from the toilet. Like, oh, if you can't meet me, that's okay. I'll just be this for each other, right? Like, no. And
Yeah.
so now when I think about that, I'm like, oh my God, like I look at that now and I love her. I have compassion. God, it was such a journey for me. Because our ego will tell us so many stories to justify like eating dog shit and calling it delicious. Like,
Yep, it's so real.
I'm supposed to help
Absolutely.
him heal. Like,
Yeah.
no.
Or having empathy for why they have it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the one who like shows no, no. And so
No,
I
knock it
no
off.
longer like I no longer put myself in situations where I accept leftovers as love for anyone, no matter how deep the connection or the love. I choose myself. I don't sacrifice my integrity or my dignity, and I don't accept less than I deserve. anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. What's something you find yourself overthinking about these days?
Oh my gosh. Probably I mean, I think I still sometimes overthink work and try to decide how things should be going. How, I still find myself trying to fit this old paradigm that I've worked so hard to break free from. But it still creeps in. And so I think that's important to say. Like, it's like, the first chapter of my book is Achievers Anonymous, like AA, right? We are always
Uh-huh.
I'm in Unhappy Achievers Anonymous, right? We're in AA. Like we're working the
Yeah.
program every day.
Yes. Recovering always.
Yes, like there might be times we want to drink that achievement tea or be like, I should
Yep.
have gotten this or that, right? I'm not worthy if I don't
Yep.
have the, so like overthinking that, getting lost in our minds and being a victim of ourselves. Like these are just we tell ourselves the worst stories sometimes. The stories that keep us stuck,
It's so true.
you know?
It's so true. Yeah, absolutely. Guys, I think Ashley's messaging was just so good that the universe or some other external force is trying to stop us from recording this interview because her computer died right at the very end there. So I just cut it right off because I wanted to get absolutely everything that she said in there. But if she was absolutely transformational, absolutely just one of the best conversations. I really hope you guys were able to take something away from all of her messaging. You can connect with Ashley on her website, ashjordan.com, or on her Instagram at Miss Ash Jordan. You can also purchase her book, Unhappy Achiever, Rejecting the Good Girl Image and Reclaiming the Joy of Inner Fulfillment on Amazon and wherever books are sold. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I love you endlessly, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.